Tune in to episode 68. We go through 20 myths amongst our professions. Pay attention to the end. You might learn something.
You're listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. With your hosts, Joe Ferranti and Jerry Kenna. Produced by Nathan Kenna. Interviewing entrepreneurs, business operators, and investors. This episode of Between Two Bridges is brought to you by Duro Cleaners. Luxury laundry care conveniently delivered to your door. Visit durocleaners.com because life's better without laundry.
All right, here we are, Between Two Bridges Studios. Looking good, and it is episode 68. And it is in the heart of flu, pneumonia, cough, cold season.
Yep, all kinds of stomach bugs going around, flus. It's crazy.
It's funny because I kind of like this time of year because if someone texts you they're sick, they mean it.
Yeah.
When you hear that shit in July, you're like, nah,
yeah, you just didn't want to come to work today.
Yeah. So our guest was unable to make it.
Yeah.
So we're winging one here tonight for you guys. We don't want to leave you in the dark. You know, you guys want to see us every week. So
yep,
here we are.
We're going to do a little special episode tonight. It's going to be fun. The Mythbuster episode.
A little myth busting going on here.
We're going to bust some myths.
This will be the most organized episode we ever do.
Organized and informative.
Oh, we're
going to answer some questions. You're going to want to listen till the end.
Absolutely. Do you want to go back and forth or do you want to go with all yours first?
No, I think we should go back and forth.
All right. Okay.
Keep people interested because here's the thing. If we listen to all the dry cleaning, people are going to listen to all the dry cleaning and be like, yeah, I don't want to listen to the accounting shit. They're going to turn it off. We're going to make them listen to the end for all of it.
Because we work in both the most interesting professions.
Yeah.
You know, if we were sitting in 7th grade and Nikki walked in and was like, hey, what are you guys going to do for a living?
Yeah.
I'm pressing the farts out of sheets.
And I'm going to do tax returns.
So I'll go first then.
Yeah.
We're in the wrong list here. That's my list.
So just for clarity, we're going to adopt a little AI love tonight.
Oh yeah.
And we're going to use ChatGPT to help us come up with myths that we're going to bust
with our professional knowledge.
Yeah, of course.
Right. All right, we'll go with number 1 then. I don't need to file taxes if I didn't make much money.
Well, that may and may not be true, but for the most people, it is a myth. If you don't have taxable income, for instance, if you're retired and all you collect is Social Security, that is correct. You do not need to file taxes. If you have, if you're retired, however, and you have pension income and things like that, if your income is more than the standard deduction, you do need to file taxes. The IRS gets a copy of those 1099s. They're going to be expecting a tax return. So, no, that is not necessarily true.
That is a myth.
Oh, it's my turn.
Your turn.
We'll get the hang of this. It's organized, but we're still starting out here.
Yeah, that's what we got. We got
All
Nate,
right.
the producer, back there.
Here we go. Dry cleaning is actually dry.
That is a myth. So dry cleaning is actually going into a dry cleaning machine. It is getting cleaned with a solvent, and there's multiple solvents out in the marketplace right now. So it gets tumbled in the solvent, but unlike your washing machine at home, it then extracts the solvent, goes through a distillation process, and dries the clothes in the same machine. So now the machines currently are dry to dry machines.
Okay.
Like in the early 60s, they would take the clothes out soaking wet, put them into a machine that spun like your extraction, and then put them in a dryer. So there was a lot of chemical exposure back then.
Okay.
So your clothes are actually getting wet. They're just getting wet in the solvent.
Okay.
So that is a myth.
Solvent is like a soap and water?
Yeah, it's a lot of, mine's corn-based, some of them petroleum-based. So there's like, everybody thinks that theirs is the best. And now we're dealing with the environment. We're outlawing.
We're going to get into more of that later.
Okay. Pump the brakes there,
Pump the
Mr. Dry
brakes.
Cleaner.
Yeah, you're busting multiple myths here.
Oh, boy. Okay. Getting a big tax refund is a good thing.
It is not a good thing. It may be a good thing in March or April and February, whenever you're getting it, but it's just your money. It is not a gift. It is not a credit. It is not money it is your money that you basically lent to the government to use for the year with no interest being paid. So it is not a good thing. When you get a job, you fill out a W-4. They can be very confusing. People struggle with them. The idea of a W-4, if it's filled out correctly, you should get next to no refund and you should owe nothing on your tax return. It is so that the correct amount of money is taken out of your paycheck every pay so that at the end of the year, you don't owe, there is no refund. Now, that is a very hard goal. I have a handful of clients that obsess over it and want to do it. And every year it's like, how close did I get? I've had clients get to $1, $2. Ideally, like in my opinion, I like to take it a little bit further, and I like to owe them a little bit, owe them a couple $1,000 because when you don't owe them a lot, you won't get penalized as long as you paid in enough to get over the penalty threshold. You won't get penalized. So basically, then I flipped the tables, and the government lent me a couple $1,000 for the year, interest free.
Very interesting.
So that's
What about what if you do get child tax credits like some people do?
Yeah, so you can actually put on your W-4 when you fill it out when you get a job that you have children, and you can have that credit applied to what's being withheld out of your paycheck, so that goes into account so that you can get that money in your paycheck instead of waiting until tax time.
Because at some points it's like $7,000 a year per kid for some people. So.
Well, no, it used to be during COVID. It went up a couple times. Right now it's $2,000 per kid. And then when they turn 17, it goes down to $500.
Okay. Yeah. So you have an extra $2,000 all year.
Yeah. If you've got 2 or 3 kids, you're talking $6,000.
It's $100 a pay.
Yeah. It's a lot of money that you're getting. I mean, $6,000, it's $500 a month. I mean, that's a car payment that you could have had, and you lent it to the government for nothing.
Hey, money's a big stress factor.
Hell yeah, it is.
So if you have a little extra in your account every day,
then The other thing too is that once that money's withheld, there's no money. There's no getting that money back until tax time.
Yeah.
So sending in estimated payments or having a ton of money withheld out of your return. If something were to go bad, you lose your job. Well, I've got $20,000 paid into the government. I'm not going to need to have that for taxes. Well, that's tough. You're not getting it back till tax time.
Up. Uncle Sam's not giving out.
Yeah. They're not
TurboTax used to give out, or was that H&R Block?
Rapid refunds?
Yeah.
You still have to wait till tax season though. So there's no advances on your tax return.
The myth busted.
Myth busted. All right. Dry cleaning ruins clothes faster.
So
it's saying that the myth is the chemicals in dry cleaning break down fabrics quickly.
So you know how soft a suit is when you buy it?
Yeah.
And it kind of remains that the whole time.
Yeah.
Because it's a full organic fabric. It's not synthetic. So a lot of things that are dry cleaning are full, natural, wools, cashmeres.
Yeah.
So, cashmeres don't, people have cashmere sweaters that their grandma had. So the thing I think personally, and I don't know if this is the scientific way to explain it, is what breaks your clothes down is mechanical action. So they go up in the washer, they drop down. They go up and they drop down. The solvent that we clean with is actually more dense than water. But I have suits that guys have brought in 100 times and they're fine, So I think that the user will deplete the life of their clothes faster than we can, because, we're actually taking care of it. People will think they're like, oh, I'll clean this suit once and wear it. And then they get a little bit of something on it, but they don't see it. But who does see it is the moth. If it's sweet, the moth will get into it, and then that's when you get your moth spots. So we extend the life of clothes by cleaning them. So that is 100% a myth.
Well, there you go.
All right. We're moving right along
We're
here,
moving
bud.
right along. I like it.
So myth number 3 is I can deduct everything I bought for work.
So there's a couple different angles to this. It's not necessarily true. So there's two different things you have to consider. If you're buying it for work, and you're a W-2 employee, you cannot deduct anything on your federal tax return anymore. Part of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017, which was the Trump tax bill, eliminated that deduction from your tax return. Now, it used to be you'd have to itemize, so you'd have to get over the itemization number. You'd have to get over the standard deduction. And then there was, if I remember correctly, it's been so long, there may have been a floor, like it had to exceed a certain percentage over your income, but I don't remember. It's been since 2017.
7 years.
So, but now you can't, if you're a W-2 employee, you can't deduct anything on your federal return. Now, we're here in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania, you can deduct work expenses. It's called an unreimbursed employee expense. You can deduct those. I will tell you that if you get too carried away, Pennsylvania will hold up a refund and then make you prove it. Pennsylvania does not like giving out money. So keep that in mind. Some other states probably have it as well, but most of my returns are in PA. Now, if you're self-employed, then the rule of thumb is it necessary for, is it required or necessary for the course of business? So if you bought something that you needed for your business and it has a business purpose, then yeah, you can absolutely write it off. There's not really much limitation on that. There's some meals and entertainment, or meals now, because the entertainment piece was also eliminated with that tax bill. But the meals portion of it is limited to 50%. Idea being that if I take a client out to dinner, I'm writing off his dinner, not mine. So you take 50% of meals. But other than that, it's pretty much a straight deduction. You can get into depreciation and amortization, that kind of shit. But that's a whole nother topic. But the rule of thumb is this a necessary expenditure for the course of my business? And if it is, then if you're self-employed or you're a business owner, then yeah, you can write it off. So,
but everything cannot be deducted.
Not everything.
So, myth
busted. Consult your accountant. All right, number 3, you should dry clean everything. All clothes last longer if they're dry cleaned.
Well, I think that maybe what ChatGPT thinks there is you should take all your clothes to a dry cleaner. And I agree with that because we know how to handle your clothes the best. And I always joke, like people will say, don't shrink this. And I shrink everything we clean. That's what wrinkles are. Then we steam them and we get them back to their natural form, so that we're like a shrink and stretch business. But I have 10, I bought a pair of Bonobos pants or Bonobos pants, or I don't even know how you say it, but I remember they were expensive. I'm going to say a little over $100. And I was like, what did I just do? Like, I thought about returning them. And I was like, hey, you're not a schmuck. You can't go in there and return them. But I've had those pants for 10 years and they've never been washed at home. And they look like the day I bought them. So I feel like next year when I wear them for the first time, I will broke even on the purchase price of those pants. But yeah, I think that we extend the life of clothes. I think that's pretty much our profession.
So do you have customers that literally dry clean everything?
Not everything, but we have wash and fold where we clean everything you would wash at home.
So if somebody were to bring you a bag of clothes and their blue jeans were in there, you wouldn't necessarily dry clean them.
No, we follow. We have to, like, I guess by law, I don't even know if we're really under a law, but by law, we follow the care instruction. It protects me. It protects the clothes. So if you send me something like a pair of blue jeans that says machine wash, cold, tumble dry, low, that's exactly what we're going to do because that's what the garment calls for. Now, there is circumstances where, like, if this shirt came in, it's a laundered shirt, we press it. If there's grease spots on it, I will dry clean it, because then the cotton shirt's strong enough to take the dry cleaning process. It'll remove the grease from the shirt. Then we will wash it again and then press it. So, I mean, we actually extend the life of clothes. That's probably like, I would say anybody that's on the fence, like if you got a new job, you bought a new wardrobe, and you're like, I really don't want the dry cleaning bill. Well, you can try to play these myths where you could spray it with air freshener, and try to get an extra day. But at the end of the day, you're going to end up buying your outfit sooner than if you just got it dry cleaned. So,
makes sense.
Plus, when you put something on from the dry cleaners, you you feel a certain kind of way. It's fresh.
Yeah.
So, myth was busted. All right. Filing taxes is optional if I'm self-employed.
Yeah, that is not true.
That doesn't even
It's not even close to true. There's nothing about that that's true. If you're self-employed, you need to claim your income. You can also claim your expenses and write off your expenses. You only pay taxes on your profit. But if you made money, you have to claim it. Now, that doesn't mean, and I get this a lot, well, I didn't get a 1099, so I don't have to claim it, right? Wrong. It is up to the taxpayer to claim the income, regardless of whether or not it is reported to the IRS. So if somebody fails to send you a 1099, or if you have, a lot of times I'll have clients that have Amazon stores or eBay stores and things like that. The thresholds for getting 1099s used to be like $25,000. So a lot of times they'd be like, well, I only made like $18,000, so I didn't get a 1099, so I don't need to claim that. Well, you do. So yeah, you have to claim it. And regardless of whether it's a 1099, self-employed, it doesn't matter. You have to file taxes.
Pay the man.
Pay the man.
Pay to play.
Uncle Sam wants his money, and God knows where he's sending it. And we're learning a lot of that right now.
Oh boy, are we ever.
Yeah. So, all right. Dry cleaning myth number 4.
All right.
Dry cleaning removes all stains. Dry cleaning is a miracle cure for all stains.
It will remove a lot more. Like, it's weird because there's oil-based stains, there's protein, like there's different stains. Like I'm like the dumbest chemist.
Okay.
I think a dry clean spotter, like you're spotting your spotting board, we're chemists that couldn't get out of like 10th grade chemistry, Yeah. So every stain has different complexities. Like spaghetti sauce has proteins and oils, The dry cleaning will break down oils. The dry cleaning, however, will take like sugary stains, like maybe like a drink that you have like spilled, like I think Jaeger bomb. No, maybe Jaeger didn't do it. We'll use it for this. You could fact check me later, but back in the day when like Jaeger bombs are popular, you'd clean a suit and it comes out with like a white spot on it. And we call those sweet spots. So it's cooked all the other part of the stain out, but the sugar remains. I had a guy when I worked with my parents, he had spilled he cracked an egg on it, like accidentally. And then when we dry cleaned it, it cooked the egg. And then you just steam it off. So
Do you do the same thing with the sugar? You steam it off?
Yeah, you just steam it off. We call them sweet spots. They come off right away, and steam, air, dry it, and you press it, and you're good to go. So I would say that did they refer to it as a stain?
Yeah.
So I call everything until I get it a spot. And when I can't get it out, then it's a stain.
Okay.
Very few things have stains on it. So like when I was younger and my stepdad, they had the first dry cleaners, I would go to Goodwill and buy shirts like this that had oil spots on it because I knew we could get it out.
Yeah.
The guy just donated it because it had a spot on it.
Yeah.
Spots are spots, stains are stains. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that it's not a miracle drug. Like if you have your favorite shirt and you got something on it, don't fucking touch it. Don't try to put anything on it. No spray soda or hairspray or Tide stick or not. Just bring it to the dry cleaner. And if it's a day or two, it's not going to ruin anything.
What if it's a long time?
Moss will probably get to it.
What if you a shirt, like I have a polo shirt that has a mark on it. And
if it's an oil-based stain, it'll
Yeah.
come out in the dry cleaning probably 90% of the time. If it is like other certain stains, like non-oil-based stains, like the spaghetti sauce, for instance, if you've washed it and then you've dried it in your dryer at a pretty significant heat, you've set that stain, that spot is now become a stain.
okay.
Yeah, so we handle spots and we try not to give you back stains. So yeah, that's like what we magic machine. Like people do think we have a wand. Like, you know, they'll fuck something up at their house. Like they'll throw a brand new black t-shirt in with like whites and they'll get dye on it. And then they dry it on high heat. Well, that's how they set dyes with heat. So
yeah, it's done.
yeah, you're
You
fucked.
just dyed your shirt.
Yeah. I mean, we've had people that have brought in ink loads. Like they had thrown clothes in their washer at home with a pen.
Yeah.
And we can get it out depending on the ink. Like there's indelible ink that sets forever, but like a gel pen, some of those will come right out. I'll save a whole load of clothes.
Really?
Yeah. So if you ever get into that
Even if they
predicament-
already dried it?
yeah, because there's like an oily to the
Oil.
yeah, some like a lubricant, like a natural lubricant to it. So yeah, we've had lipstick loads, and you know the big one is this time of year is chapstick.
Yeah.
So like if you throw your jeans in with chapstick, you have those grease spots all over them. You bring them to us, we'll throw them in the magic machine, and we'll get it all out. So you'll be good. But there are some things that are fucked.
Yeah.
So I would say myth busted.
Myth is busted.
All right. ChatGPT wants to know if married couples have to file jointly or that's a myth.
It's a myth. So if you're single or you're head of household, depending if you have children. If you're married, you can file married filing jointly. You can file married filing separately. And in some situations, if say husband and wife are separated, going through a divorce, and they live separate, and they have children, one of the parents that claims the children can possibly qualify to actually file as head of household, even though they're married. And the rules with that, you have to live apart for 6 months. And in order to be able to claim the dependent, you have to have something in writing, or the child has to have spent 50% of the nights in your home with you. But so there's other options. You don't have to necessarily file jointly. Most of the time, unless you're in a situation where you're separated and one gets to file married filing separately, most of the time it's beneficial to file jointly. You get a larger standard deduction. The tax rates are typically better than filing separately. Plus, there are credits and other deductions that are eliminated when you file separately. For example, a student loan interest deduction, it's maxed out at $2,500 per person or $2,500 per couple. So it's still $2,500 whether you're married or single. So in order for the IRS to know that if I filed married filing separately, me and my wife didn't both take it, they disallow that deduction for married filing separate filers. So, and there's other credits and other deductions similar to that. Basically just if they create a loophole to get around a limitation, they just eliminate it from a separate filing. So most of the time when I have a client that's married filing separately, they're trying to beat the student loan system.
Okay.
So student loans, when you're an income-based repayment plan, if you're married filing separately, you don't have to count your spouse's income when it comes to the income-based repayment plan. So if you've got husband and wife, I just had a situation where husband and wife, the wife had a lot of student loans, and the husband's, in order for her to be able to have a reasonable payment on those student loans, they couldn't use the husband's income.
Okay.
So she would file separately, even though it would cost her more money in taxes because her tax bill, her taxes were higher. But the amount of extra money in taxes she was paying was far less than the amount of money her payment was going to go up every month on her student loans.
Smart.
So it's a legal way to kind of work the system because these student loan companies will allow you to do that. Typically, if I have somebody that's married filing separately, that's how they're doing it. That's
Okay.
why they're doing it.
So there's multiple.
There are multiple. You do not have to be filing joint.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Apparently ChatGPT didn't know.
Yeah.
You want to hear her answer?
ChatGPT's a girl?
Oh man, I might have just put myself in the fucking hot seat there. I mean, I just assume if something's going to know everything.
I think it might be a they, them.
No, I think that if something's going to know everything, it's got to be a female.
It's
Because
true.
females, kudos.
Yeah, that's true.
Females and those that want to identify as females know everything.
Know everything.
But the answer that they come up with was, while joint filing is common, some couples may benefit from filing separately under certain circumstances. There you go.
There you go. All right. Number 5.
Ooh,
You ready?
halfway point.
Halfway. Dry cleaning eliminates odors completely.
That is the furthest thing from the truth.
All right. Why?
So body odors do not break down very well in the dry cleaning process.
Really?
Like cat urine will not break down in pretty much either process. But I haven't gone to that chemistry class to know why. But when we dry clean suits with like heavy under, like people there's other steps that we have to take in the process to get them clean. And some of them you have to you're sitting there steaming stuff that you don't want to smell either. So like, I would say that the dry cleaning does not break down very many odors. Although if you're relatively clean, it does come out with a fresh smell to it. It's just, if you're a person that has like silk blouses are a big one, like women, like with a jacket on top, they're sweating. And you when you press them, you smell them, and like it'll dissipate. The steam actually probably pushes more of the smell out than the dry cleaning.
Really?
So that is 100% a myth. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that we do to like maintain our dry cleaning machine to keep odors out, and there's no cross contamination issues, but it's just for some reason, and medications will play a role in it. Certain people take different medications, their necks, their armpits, So over the years, I've had some situations where like you hold your nose, you throw it in there and it comes out better, but it doesn't eliminate it 100%.
And then you end up having to steam it out?
Well, we steam it, or we'll pre-treat it. Like we have like a protein remover that kind of will dissipate it a little bit. And, but we don't use any fabric smelling. Like we never Febreze anything or anything like that, because you never know what people like. I know what I like to smell. I can't promise that everybody likes tropical rainforest.
Yeah.
You walk into some people's houses and they got those like Glade plugins. You're like, I know that you're trying to make it smell pretty in here, but it smells like a pretty big pile of shit.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we can't mask it, but we do work on it. It takes so there's a lot better process. They have a system now where we wet clean stuff. So we can actually wet clean a whole wool suit, and that water and that wet clean soap will break down the odor a lot better than the dry cleaning machine. Yeah, I think that's the misconception. A lot of people think like we just have dry clean machines. We have washing machines. We have wet clean machines. We have residual moisture control dryers. We have tensioning equipment. Like it's changed so much. Like we can clean anything now. It's just different. Like, but I was watching Mad Men for the first time, and you watch every one of those guys wears a wool suit. 100% wool suit every day. So like, as that's changed, our industry's had to change. Like I clean Lululemon tennis skirts. I clean Lululemon pants. We do them in the wet clean machine, and they come out pretty much odor free. I mean, I haven't been sniffing the cracks of pants lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the dry cleaning does not just, there's no magic button on there that's like,
yeah,
it doesn't.
This one stinks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So come press pants with me, and you'll know every customer I have that doesn't wear underwear. So myth busted.
Wow. Okay. I guess I'm up.
Being an accountant doesn't sound that bad nowadays.
No, it doesn't.
All right. So we are on number 6 for you. It says, I don't need to report cash income.
False. Very
Do you want number
false.
7 too? Because that one's assured.
Well, you are obligated by the Internal Revenue Service and your state and local tax collectors to report cash earnings.
So do they report on a separate line or they just report on a line?
They just report it.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that I haven't had one of these letters in a while, but
Suspicious activity letter.
listen, so years ago, not what you're referring to. That's at the bank. But years ago, it used to be that like if you accepted credit cards, you wouldn't get a 1099. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but if you have a credit card, you get a 1099K. Yep. And it tells you how much you received in credit cards every month.
It breaks it down month
by month.
And I look at it, I'm like, where'd all that fucking money go?
Yeah, it always does that to me too. So it didn't used to be that way. I don't remember what year that changed. It was quite a few years ago, prior to 2015, because I remember it was in my original office. But it changed. And right after that changed, the IRS started sending out letters that were kind of a shot across the bow, but the letter read that you may have made a mistake on your tax return. So the IRS, when you report your business on your tax return, you have to tell it what type of business it is. It's called an NAICS code, right? And every type of business has this 6-digit code for the most part. And it's basically like a category. So the IRS had a system that they were comparing. All right, before I say this, when you report your income on your tax return, even though you may have like 7 1099s, you don't report those 1099s separately.
Right.
Okay. You just report your gross revenue. And
it's a checks and balances for them.
It's a checks and balances, right? So if your 7 1099s add up to $900,000 and you report 1.1 million, you're good. If you report 800,000, you're going to get a letter saying, hey, you forgot one. Okay. But what ended up happening that year is people were taking those credit card 1099s and going, okay, well, this got reported, so I know I have to report this. And then they were just reporting that, or they were reporting just a little bit more. And the IRS was taking those category codes and how much you reported and comparing it to that 1099 and sending you a letter and saying, according to industry standards, we feel like you may have missed some of your revenue because you reported X amount of dollars and your 1099K shows this. And according to industry standards, your business typically collects a higher percentage of checks and cash as revenue. So basically, where the fuck is the rest of the income?
Yeah, the PA did that with everybody sold a vehicle.
Yeah.
And they'd say, I bought it for $1.
Yeah.
And they would say, according to
we think
fair market value.
Right. So they were sending out these letters. None of those letters that I dealt with personally ever equated to anything. They were all just like kind of a warning shot, like, hey, motherfucker, we can see this. But that was
a little bit of a scare tactic.
Yeah, it was a scare tactic, and I think it worked. I mean, the clients that got them were like, oh, I guess I need to report. I'm like, yeah, you need to report it all.
I'd have gave him my favorite response. Who dis? New number.
My favorite is when people ask me, like, well, I didn't get 1099, so what do I have to report? And of course, I'm like, all of it. And they're like, well, I'm like, listen, how much did you deposit in the bank?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to report less than that. Because if you get audited, the first thing they're going to do is add up your deposits.
Yeah, they're going to pull your bank record.
Yeah.
Right.
So don't be stupid.
Yeah, banks are...
Now, I'm not saying to only report what you deposited in the bank. What I'm saying is that it better fucking not be less than that.
Yeah. Right. You can't have a mountain
can't
of
be
cash.
Less.
Yeah, you can't have a mountain of cash in your basement. Like.
Right. And if you do have a mountain of cash in your basement, you got to report it because you got to report your cash. All right, you're up.
So I guess we busted that one too.
We busted it, dude. So I read this, and I didn't even know this was a thing.
Hopefully I know it's a thing.
I think you do. Home dry cleaning kits work just as well.
Not even close. Not even. That's like an old myth too. There was like wool light back in the day. Like you could clean some sweaters, and there are some things you can do at home to like offset having to use the dry cleaner. The problem with the dryer thing it was a company called Dryall. They're still out there. But let's think about it. You're going to take we just talked about dry cleaning is not dry, right? What their concept is you like sprayed some stuff, which was probably Febreze on your item. You put it in this bag and you put it in your dryer at low heat. So it just tumbled in the dryer. So it was more of like you could use it in between dry cleanings.
A freshening.
Yeah.
It's freshened it up.
Yeah. And you could also do that with like your favorite perfume or cologne.
Right.
And a steamer at home. The problem that I said earlier was there's some deep stains. Like if you spill a drink and there's sugar in it, if there's, a light colored suit, it can embed into the suit. It'll actually eat away at it. And now you have like, I've had suits come in where like they've done it like that. And it's been a year since they brought it. And then you clean it and the mechanical action of it rotating the drum breaks down those fibers. And I can literally see the outline of where the dirt was spilled on it. And they're like, well, I just cleaned it last time in my house. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You just freshened it up. So that is 100% a myth. And that company has made a lot of money because there are silk blouses and there's women's items like skirts and stuff that don't get dirty and you just tumble them in your dryer, but save the money. Just tumble it in your dryer.
Yeah. You don't need the spray in the bag.
Yeah, you don't need that all that.
Just tumble it in your dryer.
Yeah, it's a garment bag. Like you would put like, I don't know, my wife puts her like lacy bras and her like stuff that's delicate in a garment bag and throws it in the wash. But that was a great marketing thing, and every industry at some point's under attack, right? And that was the one that came after the dry cleaning industry. Because like in the 90s, there was a Google article that said the fastest way to become a millionaire was to own a dry cleaners. It was like one of the first Google articles on Google.
Really?
And I will tell you this. I'm hoping ChatGPT is more accurate than Google because Google was fucking way off. I'm not even close. I mean, maybe I had an old timer tell me one time, he said, you know how you make $1 million in the dry cleaning business? You start out with 2. So that is 100% a myth. Don't save your money. Don't buy that shit at Giant Eagle. It's a waste of time.
Myth busted.
Myth busted. It's like a tongue twister a little bit.
A little bit.
All right, so this one we talked about before we got on air a little bit, and me and Nate were both shocked that people actually think this, but
Thank you for listening. And now a brief word from our sponsor. Streamline your life with Duro Cleaner's complete pickup and delivery service. From your doorstep to their state-of-the-art cleaning facility and back, all without you lifting a finger. Get time back in your day and fresh, ready-to-go clothes. And just wait, big things are coming soon to make your experience even better. Visit DuroCleaners.com because life's better without laundry. And now, back to the show.
It says, can I claim a pet as a dependent?
So I get this question a lot now.
Which is like my jaw dropped when I heard that.
Most of the people say it in a joking way, but they still say it.
And they're like, really?
So can I claim my dog?
If you said yeah, they'd be like, sweet.
Yeah. Does it have a social security number? No, it is a myth. I don't even think it's a myth. I think it's just wishful thinking, like people that.
Yeah, if you had to get hip surgery for your dog and you drop $12,000.
Yeah, it's not a thing. It's you cannot write off your dog. You cannot write off your pet. Absolutely not. I do, however, I will throw a little twist in there.
Ooh.
So I have a client who is a canine police officer, and he is responsible for his animal.
Huh.
So he has to buy its equipment. He has to buy its food. He has to house it, and it is a work expense. So
he found a loophole.
You cannot write it off on your federal return because it's a work expense and he's a W-2 employee, but on the state return, you can deduct it because that dog has become a work expense. Now, it is a companion, but it's a work dog. That dog goes to work with him, and it's a work dog. It was trained, and it's a trained police dog. So it's not a dependent, but his dog is his livelihood. It's a work expense, and it's not
to throw a
reimbursed.
wrinkle in it. What if you have a service dog?
I would have to read into that a little bit. I've never been asked that question. There may be, depending on the reason for the service dog, like an emotional support animal is not going to qualify. I doubt it. But if you have a legit service dog, you probably can take a medical deduction for it.
Dude, you're gonna come. If we find out that's the case, you're gonna come to my house next time. You're like, Freddie, what's up with all these fucking dogs? It's like a kennel here. She's got 100 service animals.
Yeah.
I swear, so many people just probably buy that patch that says like service vet or service animal.
Mm-hmm.
You see them. I'm like, Lowe's lets your dog in here. You don't need the patch.
Yeah, but then at least these people have like a big dog that it makes sense. I love whenever they're like, my Chihuahua is an emotional support. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You're in a restaurant. Take it outside.
Yeah, my dog is an emotional distress.
Yeah.
Like he ruins my. So our dog's Chance, and he for the last month has been known as Last Chance.
You've been calling him Last Chance for a little while
Yeah,
now.
and it's funny because
He's been on that Last Chance.
I've
for
been
a while.
wrong about a lot of things in my life, but I was right about that dog. I was like, we don't need this in our life right now. And he's there. So,
You know what, though, dude? A year from now, you're going to be like, I can't believe I ever didn't want this dog.
yeah, once he calms down. But my biggest thing is I didn't want to get him neutered, but he needs to calm the fuck down.
Well, that'll calm him down.
I hope. There's no guarantee. What if he just comes back like,
Just pissed.
I mean, if you cut my balls off, dude, I'm going to sit Indian style and look at you for a long time like, oh, crisscross applesauce.
Yeah, not allowed to
I
say
learned
that.
something last episode. We're learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Fucking
the
retard.
dog's not a write-off. Myth busted, huh?
Yeah. All right. Dry cleaning is too expensive for regular use, and only rich people can afford regular dry cleaning.
I'm going to speak honest because this is being recorded. I think that it depends on how you use it. First of all, it's no joke. Like if you don't make a lot of money and you're working like a blue collar job, that's why they call it a blue collar job. You're not wearing a lot of suits and button down shirts. And we all have washing machines. Like the luxury now is a lot of people have washing machines at home.
Yeah.
But if you have a job that requires that you wear a suit, generally the pay represents that. And we have a mutual friend that's a lawyer, and he said to me one time, the first time he went to court, actually, the lawyer that he was going against came in a suit and was dressed to the nines, and he felt inferior.
He wasn't wearing a suit?
He was wearing a suit, but it wasn't like a custom suit. He wasn't put together. And from that day on, he said, when I'm going to court, I'm bringing my A game. I got to look better than everybody in the room because it commands respect. I mean, the president wears a suit for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, I say that our industry took a big blow, like I think right around 9/11 when Bush threw out the first pitch of the Yankees game. It was like one of the first times in my life I can ever remember the president being out in public in blue jeans, and he had that FDNY sweatshirt on, and it like people were like taken back a little
Oh, it's
bit.
a normal person.
Yeah. And then in that same realm was when Tiger Woods went to Augusta and didn't wear a polo shirt. He wore that mock turtleneck. And I was like, they're just dressing down society. Like, right. Like I was young, but when I go back and you look at the history, like it's like, so like those jobs that require you to have dry cleaning, it is an expense. It's just like everything else. I laugh all the time when I'm doing like invoicing. I couldn't imagine if my wife or I spent that kind of money on dry cleaning. But that was a big hurdle in my business, is to realize that just because you're broke doesn't mean all your customers are broke.
Right.
It is a luxury service. And we talked a little bit last episode, and this will come out, the first weekend of March?
Man, that's a great line.
What?
Just because you're broke doesn't mean your customers are broke.
Right. It's like we bear this burden for everybody as a business owner. You don't want to charge too much.
Yeah.
And like, hey, if the numbers don't number, you got to charge more money. You know? If every month you're just making it, you either need to find more clients or charge more money.
Yeah.
I find it easier sometimes to just charge more money. But no, it's not for everybody. Everybody will end up having to go to a funeral, and not everybody will wear a suit to that funeral. You know, everybody will get married. They don't have to wear a suit. But if you wear a suit, you should get a dry clean. It's just like putting oil in your car, you know, you should pay an accountant to do your taxes. Like there's plenty of quick ways around saving $200-300 a year from getting your taxes done. But there's comfort in that.
Yeah.
You know, so
I'm going to do the math someday. I'm going to talk to you, and I want to do the math on what it would cost to just dry clean all my work clothes.
I think that there's like maybe something off topic with the taxes too. I've done some work for some people on the news, and there's like this weird thing where it has to be delivered to the studio, and then it becomes part of their costume, and they can write it off.
No, yeah.
Because they used to be able to write off dry cleaning. You know, that was another impact to the industry. Like if you were a lawyer and you can.
Sure.
So I had a client tell me that there's a fine like line there depending on your profession.
Technically, the problem with writing off uniforms and it's a suit or any sort of maintenance thereof of a suit is that you can wear it out.
Right.
So it's not solely for work or for your business. So you can't write it off.
And that's probably why they wanted it delivered
to the set, so that it's
only wearing it there.
It's only wearing it there.
There was no gray area.
Yeah. Now, when I say writing off dry cleaning, I don't have anybody that's writing off dry cleaning for suits. I have police officers that are writing off dry cleaning their uniforms,
right?
On the state return.
Yeah, that's the number one person that I have asked me for a year-end statement is police officers.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for everything they can get.
Everything they can get, yeah. Now, it's only able to do it on the state and a local return in Pennsylvania. But, yeah, that's something I do that often.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it's like, I guess I would put it to you this way. It is not for everybody. And so is having a landscaper come cut your grass isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
It's all about what you value.
Yeah.
But like we said earlier, if you take that out of the bag and you put it on, you know, all your buttons are going to be perfect.
Listen, we can have that conversation about anything. We just had Jill and Jess on last week.
$100,000 nanny.
Yeah. And I think 100,000 is probably more than it would even be. I mean, I think I was doing the math and you probably get into it for about 50K, but
locally here,
right?
Yeah.
New York, you're looking at, you know, $120,000, $140,000 a year. Yeah. But in Pittsburgh, you know, you could get a full-time nanny for about $50,000. Now, to a huge amount of people, $50,000 that's so much
that's their
money.
Yearly income,
Right?
You know,
but if you are a dual-income household and both husband and wife are making $150,000 or $200,000 a year, and you're already spending $25,000 in daycare,
right?
Maybe spend $50,000. And you have somebody at home and you don't have to worry about taking them to daycare. You don't have to worry about all the downsides of daycare. So there's that argument you can make about every service and every product. And it's not, there's an ass for every seat.
Right.
Right. And, you know, you just have to find your customer and somebody that values your product or your service enough that is willing to part with their money to do it.
Right. And I mean, I do a lot of work for Cam's Foundation. Some of these kids have never owned a suit. They don't even know what to do. They don't even know what a dry cleaners is.
Right.
You know, so we started handing out vouchers with the suit. So now they have the suit because it's easier to maintain that suit.
Do they keep the suit?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought they were like they basically rented it.
No, they're pretty cool, man. I got to see one in action. So like it's a room in the school.
Yeah.
Probably about this size with maybe 200-300 suits in it, shirts, ties, the whole nine. They go to the guidance counselor's office, say, hey, I got this interview coming up. They go down, they fit them up for a suit. It's theirs to keep. But 15 to 18-year-old kids that couldn't afford a suit, get a suit, and they don't know what dry clean only means. It's not even in their realm.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to wrinkle it up throwing a ball. But like, if it fits them and it made them confident, we give a voucher for the life of that suit. Find me, we'll clean it for you.
For the life of it?
Yeah, as long as they need it clean. Like anybody that goes through this program, because, someday, maybe they need 10 suits clean because they went through the program. And then I'm going to be their guy, if they're here in Pittsburgh. So
yeah,
it's
that's nice. It's good to give back.
Yeah. So to answer the myth, it's a busted. It's just busted. I mean, I know it's not for everybody, but it is a needed service.
Yeah.
We were essential.
It's levels, it's for everybody when it comes to the suit that you wear. Most people have a suit or a sport coat and a nice outfit for weddings and for funerals and for events where you have to have something like that on. It's available and it's not outrageously expensive for somebody, that person that's your once or twice a year customer.
Yeah, $50 for the year.
Right.
But it's probably average for a customer.
But for somebody that's doing 10 suits every week, whatever.
Our biggest customers are people that go to New York and spend, $3,000 on 5 Ralph Lauren sweatsuits, jumpsuits.
Yeah.
And they're not taking a chance of jamming them in their washer,
right?
And ripping the cords out of them. They want to protect their investment. So yeah, it's a myth. Everything's a myth.
Everything's a myth.
I got locked out here. No, we're good. Ooh. ChatGPT wouldn't pay taxes if she had an income. I'll tell you that right now. If I don't get a 1099 or a W-2, I do not have to pay taxes on that income.
So yeah, we already kind of touched on that, but it's false. I mean, like I said before, it's up to the taxpayer, the person receiving the money. It's their responsibility. Yeah. There are penalties for somebody that fails to send a W-2 or a 1099. If you were to get audited or something like that. Especially a W-2. A W-2 is important because you've withheld taxes on that person's behalf. There are pretty severe penalties for not filing W-2s. 1099s are a little bit less so, but the penalties are there. And but ultimately the responsibility of the tax goes on the person that earned the money. And you are responsible whether you get a 1099 or a W-2 or anything. If you earned the income, you have to report it.
Okay. Oh, looks like I need a tax accountant to file my taxes.
All right. Let's see. What's the next one? You can store dry clean clothes in the plastic bags, and that the plastic bags protect your clothes.
So that's funny because that's something that I've always, when you go to someone's house or you go to an estate sale, you always see the dry cleaning hanging in a closet, and that is not healthy for your clothes.
I'm blown away.
Yeah. So we're a little younger, and maybe some people, I guess there are guys, I know guys that still do it, but they used to put a paper cover over it and then a bag. So the bag is just for when you're transporting the clothes. Essentially, when you get home, you want to take the bag off. You could leave that paper cover that they used to use a lot of, or like in my case, what I tell people is, you're just trying to keep the dust off the shoulders of the suit jacket. So just hike it up. You got to let it breathe. It's a fabric. It needs to get.
So you can leave the plastic on there, just hike it up.
Yeah, I usually give it get it up over like halfway at least and get some air through there. You're just trying to, that bag is like, so the bird doesn't shit on it on the way to the car. We use the bags because we're hanging clothes on front doors a lot. But once they get it inside, and the other thing is we're not perfect. We make mistakes. So if you take and you have 15 pieces in an order, you just hang it in your closet and it's summer clothes. And then next summer comes around and you're like, I'm missing a belt to that dress. Well, it's easier to address it, pun intended, at the beginning than it is a year from now.
Right.
Although
that makes sense.
Software nowadays, we'll probably find it for you. That's my favorite thing actually. Like weird things happen and I'll have like a blue dress shirt that's just hanging there for like 8 months. And then when someone calls and they're like, hey, I don't know, this might be a shot in the dark, but I'm missing this blue Tommy Hilfiger button-down shirt. I'm like, yes, I'm going to re-clean it. You can have it back. Get it the fuck out of my way. Yeah. Because like I've been looking at it. Like it's like it's a piece to the puzzle. But yeah, you want to get those bags off of it. It's just for transit. Just keep it. Yeah. Especially on the dry cleaner side. Like we have that conveyor back at the old place. We got to cover it in our store because we don't want to have to clean it again.
Right.
So it's just a temporary solution. So myth busted.
Do you have a conveyor at your new place?
Nah.
Didn't need it.
I have all racks, so because we're like so new there that I didn't want to put anything permanent in until I knew like how the layout was going to go.
Okay.
So everything we have is on wheels, and
Are you eventually going to put a conveyor in?
we are our point of sale software team is working on a quick sort conveyor, which will actually allow us to scan the barcode and then it spins instead of the girl walking 100 numbers like down to one, and then we'll use that. But I don't need like the big. Our shit moves,
Yeah.
which is so nice. Like it's kind of like can be mentally unstabling on Friday when you walk in because a lot of it is in the cleaning process. So nothing's hanging on the racks in the back, but it's also mentally unstabling when you walk into a dry cleaners, you don't have any money and you got a rack full of clothes that people aren't coming to pick up. So it's all about getting in your own space.
Yeah.
But yeah, take those plastic bags off.
Interesting.
All right, we're getting into the good stuff here. The next two are really good questions. I'm glad we didn't work backwards. We're going to finish strong
Yeah, I
here.
told everybody you got to listen to
The end. So the IRS will call me if I owe them money.
So the IRS will not call you.
Ever.
It has happened a handful of times where an IRS agent has called a client, but that is after you've already been notified that you are under audit. Okay.
Yeah, you're ducking them.
You are well aware. There have been several letters. You are never going to be surprised by a phone call from the Internal Revenue Service demanding payment over the phone.
Okay.
If you receive that call, hang up the phone. Or you can fuck with them. I like to fuck
I
with
like
them.
to fuck with them.
I like to fuck with them. I like to try to keep them on a call as long as I can. The longer they're on the phone with me, the less likely they're fucking with somebody else. So
right.
I like to fuck with them. But if you get a call from the IRS, 99.99% of the time, it is a scam. In the 0.01% time, you should be well aware of the IRS situation that you are in, where at that point, an agent has been assigned to your case and you have received a letter from that agent and he is calling you and the number matches the letter, the name matches the letter. You will never be caught off guard and all of a sudden you've got to go to Target and buy gift cards to pay the IRS. That is no. Stop it.
Western Union.
Hang up the phone. It is a scam. As far as, and I'm not sure where that question was going, whether that was the case or whether it was, I don't have to file because the IRS knows what I have to owe, so they'll just send me a letter. Don't do that either. So there's a funny meme that goes around all the time that filling out a tax return is like taking a test that the IRS already knows the answers to, and if you get any answers wrong, you go to jail. It's kind of true. So the IRS gets, if you have a 1099 or a W-2, the IRS has it too. There's some other things that are reported to the IRS on your behalf. So they have a file on you. They have a transcript. They have a good expectation of what should be on your return. The IRS does not know what your expenses are. If you sold stock during the year, chances are the IRS doesn't know what you paid for that stock, so they don't know your cost basis. So that's a good example. If you were to wait, say for instance, you've decided to take up day trading, and during the year, you bought and sold stock and your total sales for that stock was $300,000. Now, you're not a big money person, but if you're buying and selling stock every day, you could rack up $300,000 in proceeds. But that doesn't mean you made $300,000. That means you sold $300,000 worth of stock, but your cost basis may be $298,000. Your cost basis might be $310,000 and you took a loss. Right? But the IRS doesn't know what that loss is. You only have to pay taxes on the profits. So it's important for you to file the return to say, hey, IRS, here's the $300,000 that I sold, you know about, but I spent $310,000 on that.
Yeah, like gamblers.
So now I have a loss. So they don't have all the information. So waiting for the IRS to give you a letter, first of all, if it gets to the point where the IRS is sending you a letter, the IRS is about 3 years behind. So by the time they send you that letter, you've racked up 3 years worth of penalties and interest.
Yeah.
So don't do that. And the other thing too is that they don't have the full picture. So you're leaving money on the table.
Right.
Myth busted.
That's why you need tax professionals.
All right. Number 9. Dry cleaning uses harmful chemicals only, and that all dry cleaning chemicals are toxic.
That is something that was never true. Not even with toxic chemicals, right? Because even the old time dry cleaners that were using toxic chemicals were using them in, let's say 80% of them were using them in a responsible manner. They weren't dumping perk into the water stream. They had barrels where they were taking the chemicals away. I would say that in light of recent research, dry cleaning clothes will, in the long run, be better for the environment than washing clothes, because everybody that washes clothes at home are putting microfibers into the water streams, like the rivers, like every time you rub something together. I mean, just look at your dryer, look at all the lint.
Yeah.
So the chemicals themselves are becoming healthier for the environment. So I clean with a corn-based solvent. It's called Solvon K4. There's a couple other products in the marketplace. They all do a pretty good job doing different things. But yeah, there's no reason for you to ever really come in contact with my solvent. If you didn't want to touch it, you don't touch it. Years ago, they used to have a bowl with a goldfish swimming around in it. I don't know how many goldfish they had at the show. They had a cooler full, just replace them every hour, but they kind of give a bad name for dry cleaners. And unfortunately, it's a lot in like places like New York and California, PAs. I mean, they banned perk, and like they'll call a dry cleaner about banning perk or that thing. We're a small user of that chemical compared to like brake clean, part clean, like people that are cleaning industrial equipment. They're slopping it around, making a mess. We're pretty environmentally responsible. Now, on my end, I'm 100% eco-friendly. We've been Green Business Bureau certified for quite some time now. We got certified in New York when we were buying the building because the loan, the bank didn't want to do the loan if we were not environmentally friendly, which I can get it because, environmental cleanups are probably killers.
Yeah, not to mention if the government were to then outlaw the cleaning solution that you're using, now all of a sudden that loan becomes uncollectible.
Right. And they, at my old place, the previous owner cleaned with perk. They had drilled test ports in the ground to make sure, because perk is more dense than water. So if it gets on the ground, it's just going to keep going down. So they did some tests, and they would come in and they had like these metal things they could pull out and test it. Never was a problem. When I bought my new machine, the landlord was thrilled because they were able to fill those ports and didn't have to have a worry about it. But yeah, it's like anything else. It's like a misconception. The news can spin things one way to make it look really bad or really good.
Yeah.
I've come to find that whenever perk's getting banned, they want to make dry cleaners look bad. Whenever they're talking about something like eco-friendly cleaners like we are, they want to talk about it like it's good, like it's a good thing. There was a problem in the 90s where a lot of dry cleaners were like, we're eco-friendly because they're doing one thing or another. But when you become Green Business certified, you have to, it's not just the cleaning chemicals. They do the lights. They rate how many LED lights you have, utensils you supply for like your employees. Like if you have reusable stuff, like your paper towel. We went through that Green Business Bureau thing. It was like, what do you do with your old fluorescent light bulbs? Like you had to have a plan in place. I switched to a biodegradable plastic that helped in that process. But yeah, everything eco-friendly is more money, that's for sure. But yeah, you have no worries. Like if you have a dry cleaners in your neighborhood or you're a Chinese restaurant and you're next to a dry cleaners, there's no worry. We could blow up just like any other business. We have a hot water tank, but like other than that, the chemicals are so contained, I miss perk though. I miss the old smell,
Really?
Like, yeah, it's funny. I've been around long enough. Like I was a kid, I'd go with my stepdad. We would do something. You get oil on your hands or grease, and you could put the perk on there, come right off, and then they'd be white because all the oil was out of your skin. But I know 90-year-old dry cleaners that have been dealing with chemicals the whole time. You know,
They're fine.
Yeah, it's a myth. People can worry about anything they want.
Yep.
So, myth busted. And that brings us to your last, number 10. Amending a return is a red flag for an audit.
False.
That was my favorite question, though.
Yeah. So it's false. You don't have to be afraid to amend a return. You don't want to just amend a return. Just like any other return, the information you put on the return needs to be true.
Right.
And you have to be able to substantiate it in the case of an audit, right? Just filing an amended return does not trigger an audit. I've amended hundreds of returns over the years and never dealt with that. I lie. I can't say never. I did have one that did trigger an audit, but it wasn't the fact that it was an amendment. It was how we amended it. There was an expense listed on there that was, it was a little bit outside of the normal, typical operations of a typical the business. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but it was. He went hard in one expense. But it was a legitimate expense, and we went through the audit, and the auditor agreed with my interpretation of the expense, and he allowed it. So the amendment did not hurt the client at all, and but his did trigger an audit, but it was only because the expense that we added to it was pretty substantial, and it was uncharacteristic of the typical expenses on that line item for that business. I'm being very vague, and I hope that I'm not being really confusing, but I'm being vague to protect the identity of the innocent. But so no, it's absolutely a myth. I would caution anybody that's filing any tax return, whether it's the original return or the amendment, that the information that you put on that return needs to be true, and you need to be able to substantiate it in the case of an audit. If that's the case, then first of all, it's not likely to trigger an audit. And if it does, who cares? And if you're not lying on your tax return, an audit is really not that big of a deal. Typically in an audit, a client or the IRS will send you a letter and say that we're going to review the details of these line items. And you send them a breakdown of those line items, and you get assigned an agent. So you're not just sending them into the abyss, typically. You get assigned an agent. And most of the time now, it used to be that they'd come out to the office and you provide all the paperwork, and they'd sit in your conference room and go through it. I haven't done one of those in a long time, 10 years probably. Now it's all phone or email or mail. Which is kind of a pain in the ass to us, because now we're sitting there scanning receipts and dealing with all that shit. But you just send them a spreadsheet of the expenses that make up the amount that's on that tax return. You send them copies of the invoices or receipts to go along with it, and they say yes or no. And they may disallow some things. The IRS is not trying to bankrupt you. They're not trying to, gotcha. They're just, and most of the time, they're very reasonable. As long as don't avoid them, don't ignore them, don't be shitty, just be pleasant. And they're typically, most of the time when I deal with them, they're just people doing their job. They just want to review it, and they're willing to listen. And I can say, well, the reason I put it here is because the way I interpret this is this and this and this. For example, I had a client that we filed their return. They're retired, but they started spend a lot of time at the casino, right? So they don't have a day job. They're retired. They have some real estate holdings, but the income that you have from a casino from slot machines gets reported on a W-2G. You have to file it on your tax return, right?
Okay.
Now, you are allowed to write off those expenses on your Schedule A, your itemized deductions. You're allowed to write off your losses to the extent of your winnings. So if you have $400,000 worth of winnings, you're allowed to write off up to $400,000 worth of losses on your Schedule A. So it doesn't come out as a dollar for dollar deduction because there's other line items and blah, blah, blah. It's boring. But most of that stuff just washes away and you don't end up having to pay taxes on it. Most of it. But in their situation, because they were retired and they collect Medicare, they're on Medicare. Medicare, where that deduction comes off is in your itemized deductions, which is underneath your adjusted gross income.
Okay.
So you have your adjusted gross income, then you have your itemized deductions, then you have your taxable income. Medicare can increase the amount of money that you have to contribute monthly for your Medicare, but it's calculated based on your adjusted gross income. So that $400,000 worth of gambling winnings shows up in that. So now you could end up in a situation where your Medicare now goes through the roof because of this gambling thing. So a way around it, but there's very strict rules on how to make this work, is you are also able to claim that you are a professional gambler. Okay, so if you're a professional gambler, instead of putting the earnings on your 1040 and your losses on Schedule A, you can put it all on Schedule C as a business. Money in, money out. Now you can still only write off your losses to the extent of your winnings. So you can only go down to zero.
Okay.
But when you do it that way, you're going income, losses, zero. So by the time it gets to your 1040, it's a zero. It never changes your adjusted gross income.
Okay.
So it's a better way. But in order to do that, you have to have a couple qualifications. One of the qualifications is it has to be a full-time thing. You can't have a day job and be a professional gambler. It has to be that's your profession. You're a professional gambler. Okay. There's a couple other stipulations that you have to be able to do. The other thing with it is that they really want you to not just take your W-2Gs, which is the paperwork you get from the casino with your winnings, and then subtract your losses. In a case of an audit, they want to actually see, I went down to the casino on February 13th and I hit for $500, but I put 600 in, negative 100. And then I went down on February 17th and I hit for $2,500. I only put in $1,300. It's positive. They want to see that. So even if you had a day where maybe you only hit for 250, so you didn't get a W-2G, it's a business. So you got to claim all that, right? Even though you didn't get W-2'd, you still got to claim it. They want to see that line item detail. Now, the audit that I had, he didn't require that. He said, listen, this is the way I want to see this technically. I'll take the W-2G because the IRS works 3 years in the back. So they were like, there's no way for him to know this and do this now. I understand. In the future, this is the way it needs to be done. Right. But we had to show the question was, why did you put it on Schedule C and not on 1040? Well, he's a professional gambler. Why do you say that? Well, because he doesn't have a job. Once he retired, he decided that he liked to do that and he wanted to try to do it professionally. Didn't work out so well because he lost all of his money and he had all his losses. He had losses and he ended up netting in zero.
Dude, got to retire twice.
Yeah. So because I amended the return to do that because his Medicare was going to go through the roof.
Right.
The amendment triggered that audit. I submitted that explanation. This is what I did. The audit went away. I mean, it was literally one packet of information. Here's what I did. But the key is working with a tax professional that knows those rules. And when you send the response, you got to hit those rules in the response.
Yeah.
Per section, blah, blah, blah of the code. This is why I say that he's a professional gambler. You have to be able to substantiate it. If you can do that, the auditor's going to go, yeah, okay, yeah, I agree. We're good. No change. That's the key.
So is it 99.9% busted?
It's mainly busted.
Okay.
It's 99.9% busted that an amended return will trigger an audit. It's not likely to trigger an audit. It can if you do something substantial, but just don't lie on your tax return. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. The lies keep away the red flags. And that's...
Yeah, don't be afraid of red flags. Everybody says this red flag bullshit. The tax code was not written to trick you.
Right.
The tax code is written to manipulate you. So don't think that you're going to get away. I'm not going to get away. I can't do business use of the home. That's just asking for an audit. No, it's not. Just don't lie.
Right.
It's there to be able to provide you a deduction to pay less taxes. There's a reason they put that code in there. It's not to trick you. It's to get you. It's to manipulate your behavior.
Right. I always think the people that try to do shit to like skate the tax guy, they're just pushing the buck down the road, dude.
Yeah.
The shit's going to come due. We've talked about it here before. Like, you have to pay taxes to get buying power, and you can't keep reporting a loss because you won't get any fucking funding. And without funding, you can't make moves. So.
Yeah. And then look at what we went through for COVID. I had people that came to me for PPP loans and for EIDL loans that have been for years doing stuff under the table.
Yeah.
And you don't qualify for anything or hiding money. And now all of a sudden, hey, you don't qualify for anything because you've not been claiming it. You can't put yourself in that position. It just doesn't make sense. And then if you do get audited and you've been hiding all that money, it's going to be real hard to explain.
We live in a pay-to-play society, dude.
You got to pay to play, man. So, all right, number 10 for you, man. This is it.
I'm on the hot seat for number 10 here.
This is a good one.
Oh, boy.
If it says dry clean only, you have no other choice, and you must dry clean anything labeled dry clean only.
So, we talked about the wet clean machine earlier. It's roughly probably maybe a little under a small unit might cost you 20 grand, dryer and washer. You don't have that at home, right? If you need it to be cleaned and it says dry clean only, you better find a professional dry cleaner. If you truly want it clean, you could fluff it in your dryer. Mostly those clothes that say dry clean only are things that you wear out. You're not going to change the oil in your car. You're not going to go to the barbecue restaurant, hopefully, in your white cashmere sweater. Use some common sense. You could probably, and I mean, if you use some common sense and you stay out of the dirt, you could probably wear it once or twice. But after that second time, get a dry cleaner. Find someone you trust. Tendencies are dry clean clothes only are costing more money. I also see a lot of, like Perry Ellis is famous for it. They will put machine wash instructions in their items because they know that the consumer, if they see dry clean only, tend to lean the other way and not buy it. But then people wash them at home. They throw them in the dryer on high heat and their pants are fucking ruined. And it's like, so I would say that if you value an outfit or you have a favorite suit or dress or you were a bridesmaid in a wedding, invest the time and energy, find a dry cleaner you can trust. We come to you, sponsor the show. It's the same thing with an accountant. I think I said this to you before, and if I didn't, I say it to a lot of people. I said, it's important in life that you find three things. You need to find an accountant you can trust. You need to find a dry cleaner you can trust. And you got to find a hairstylist you can trust. Or a barber or a salon. Those are the three things. Other than that, you could figure it out. Probably a good lawyer. After you get past a certain age, you probably need a good lawyer. But there's certain services in your life that you are going to have to find someone and trust them. So if you have something at home that you're wearing, it says dry clean only, once or twice, call us. Yeah. Go online, schedule a pickup.
That's a good rule because there's people that go their entire lives and never need an attorney.
Right.
Ever. But you really should have an accountant that's doing your taxes.
Yeah.
You need to have a dry cleaner you could take your nice outfit to. Even if you only have that one suit that you only wear to funerals. Somebody got to wash that thing. Right. It needs to be washed. Right. And you need somebody to do it.
And I scapegoated. Like I added the hairstylist in there recently because me and you've talked about your relationship with Jack, your barber. Mm-hmm. You go there Wednesdays, that's your thing. And my life for a while there was hectic, so I couldn't make an appointment. But last week I had a wedding, so I did it in advance. And now, like, I'll go there. Like, it's a good relationship to have. Just go and make it a point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, men, we're not into self-care, you know, that much. But like that to me it like set the tone, you know. Like,
I go every 3 weeks, and my phone goes off. I have clients that text and call 24/7.
right.
You know, when I sit down in a barber chair, my phone goes on to do not disturb mode. I don't want my watch buzzing. I don't want my phone going off. That's like the hour every 3 weeks that I can just sit and bullshit with the barber. And sometimes we talk business.
Yeah.
And he's a client. But it's just a way for me to kind of turn off and just, it's an hour for me.
It was wild because I was like, all right, I made this appointment. It was in the daytime. I was like, I'm just going, like, nothing. I'm going. I got to be there.
Yeah.
So I had some shit to do in the morning, and then I pull up in front. My driver calls me. He got deathly ill on the route. He was sick. I'm like, I'm going in to get the haircut, you know. And then you realize, like, yeah, that's kind of it, you know. And I appreciate they were guests of the show, you know, and friends of mine. And it was one of those things where it's like, this is something you need to do. So there's certain things in your life that maybe it seems expensive, you know, or maybe it seems like you shouldn't be spending the money on that. And we talked about it earlier about dry cleaning isn't for everybody, not on a day-to-day basis, but if you have an extra couple bucks and I had a wedding, so that's what I was getting the haircut for. So I had a wedding. I was in the wedding, so I had a tuxedo rental. I go to pick it up. There's 4 creases in my pants. The shirt looks like shit. I had to go Saturday, fire up the plant, press my own shit, and had my new haircut. But you know what? I had more fun because I knew I was put together when I got there.
Yeah.
Now 15 beers later, I don't know what I look like.
So a guy like you doesn't own a tux?
Well, it was gray, and it was a certain shirt and tie color. And
okay, so you do own a tux.
yeah, I have a tux. Yeah. I have a James Bond tux.
Nice. I'm
just looking for a reason to wear it. So maybe I'll get married one of these
next
days.
week. Maybe next episode.
Well,
this was a good episode. Very informative.
Yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. It's fun. You know, we've hit it around about what we do for a living, and we've talked about it. But now
we actually do know what the hell we're talking about.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, hope you guys learned something. Episode 68 in the books. 68 straight hours. Go on, get it.
Thank you for listening to Between Two Bridges, a business-to-business podcast. Find and follow us on your preferred podcast streaming platform. Like and subscribe, and leave us a rating and review. You can join us socially on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and X. You can email the show at info@betweentwobridgespodcast.com. Until next time, make it till you rake it.